The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, this is Toby Manhire, here to urge you to tune in to Gone by Lunchtime, a podcast with me, Annabelle Lee Mather and Ben Thomas, tackling the world of New Zealand politics, from policy to polling, from scandal to psychodrama. Listen to Gone by Lunchtime, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network, wherever good pods are sold.
NAIR is public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.
Ngā mihi o te tau hou. Matariki and puanga have risen, signalling the beginning of a new year. It truly is a beautiful thing to witness and be part of the nation's honouring of Matariki and puanga for the first time. It's such a special time not only for tangata whenua, but for our whanaunga around the Pacific, many who also recognise Matariki as the dawning of a new year. And through recognising this holiday as a nation, we've created something really special for all of those who call this whenua home, something we can celebrate as Māori, Tauiwi, Pākehā, something for all of us. I'm sure I probably wasn't the only one a little hesitant about what a national Matariki celebration would look like. You know, I had a few fears about whether it would be cheapened by commercialisation, fireworks and department store sales, rather than a time of reverence for our environment, the stars and the maramataka. I mean, sure, there were still fireworks, filling the night sky with more artificial lights, rather than turning to those that Ranginui provides. I was in Porneke with the many thousands of other people last Friday, crammed together to get a glimpse of the fireworks, which, due to the hordes of people and the massive tree impeding my view, was definitely not worth it. But on the whole, our first national Matariki holiday was given the respect and mana it deserves and upheld the mātauranga passed down from our tipuna. Whāngai i te hautapu, the ceremony that feeds each of the stars of the kahui of Matariki, was televised for all those up at 6 a.m. on Friday to watch it. The recitation of karakia for the ceremony was led by Professor Po Temara and a group of ruanuku, who are specially trained in performing these rites. Across our screens and on our airwaves, from the beginning of the Tangaroa lunar phase to the public holiday itself on the Friday, Te Reo Māori flowed, and the taonga tukuiho o mātauranga a Matariki ki puanga was available to all of those willing and ready to access it. Many of you hopefully also took part in your own hautapu ceremonies, whether that be with your whānau, hapu, iwi, friends or hapori. I gathered with my heke reo whānau at 4:45 at Te Wānanga o Raukaua last Thursday in what was my very first hautapu. We'd spent all week, and actually some weeks prior, learning karakia, waiata, maurako, even writing our own pau and karakia for each of the whetū for that ceremony. And the night before that, on the Wednesday, the evening before, as the sun set, we were led in karakia by Matua Tipi Wehe Peihana, and that process was to release all the heaviness and taumaha we were carrying in preparation for hautapu. I found out later that I wasn't the only one whose tears fell hard and fast during the karakia. That is the power of karakia, to connect us with our wairua, with ngā atua, to transition between states of tapu and noa, to cleanse. And during hautapu, we send karakia out to Pūtakawa, the whetū that carries the dead home, and in doing so, we release the bonds with our loved ones who have passed on and allow them to return back to Hawaii Nui, Hawaii Roa, Hawaii Paumamau. What warms my ngākau is that there's been so much kōrero about what each whetū of Matariki means, how we can honour each of them, and how through hautapu, even if it is as humble as a couple of kumara in a pot, we can honour this incredibly sacred, important time for our people. There's been so much cool and exciting stuff to do and see over this Matariki period. What I'm loving in particular is all of the new music that's been released. Acts of Service by Te Kahurere Moa is rongoa to my ears, as is Pūwhenua Hautapu, E Ka Mumura, the Reo Māori album release of Troy Kingi's third album, Holy Colony Burning Acres. There've been so many festivals and performance across the motu, and I really hope you all got amongst and enjoyed some of these with your whānau and friends. Or perhaps you spent the weekend resting, and that's totally okay too. I think actually with the excitement and celebrations of our first Matariki holiday, a lot of us, including myself, probably didn't do enough of that resting. But most importantly, I hope you all made time to look up at the stars and take part in a hautapu ceremony. There's so much we can learn from our environment. There's so much it can teach us if only we take the time to listen and look up. Mana watia a Matariki e hua mā. Stay tuned, because coming up next, me and my co-host will be talking to a wahine Māori astronomer about all things Matariki and ngā whetū. Mau tonu mai e hua mā. Kia ora anō, nau mai hoki mai ki te ne. I'm joined now by my co-hosts, Leonie, Hayden, and Te Kuru o te Marama Jews. Kia ora korua, pehana korua.
Kia ora.
Mauri ora, ahe. Hari koa ana, ko ora te wairua I tēnei rā whakahirahira o tātou.
Awesome. Well, joining us today to talk all things Matariki and mātauranga I pāna ki ngā whetū is Olive Karena-Lockyer, no te Aupōuri, Ngāti Raukawa. She's an astronomy educator at the Stardome in Tāmaki Makaurau, and she's also only one of 2 wahine Māori in astronomy. And through learning about Matariki and ngā whetū, she's also connected with her taha Māori. Nau mai, tēnā koe hoa, pehana koe.
Tēnā koe Meriana. Kei te hare koa hou. Also pretty tired as well.
You would have had such an epic week.
Yeah, it's been a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a bit about when did Matariki celebrations start for you? Were you out there on the first day of the Tangaroa lunar phase?
We were, yeah. My work, Stardome, we planned a little hikoi up to the tihi of Maunga Kiakia to have a look, to watch Matariki rise. And we did that. It was really beautiful, like just something about the early morning that's really mystic, especially going up the maunga with everyone as well, you know, everyone's energy. That was really nice. And then we got up there and we were very early. So we had to wait for quite a long time. And it was like, the wind was like piercing. So, yeah, it was quite intense. It got intense from that point on, like waiting. And then seeing Matariki with the city lights below was really hard with the light pollution from the city lights. So we saw a glimpse of her. Probably just Matariki alone is what we saw, but we got some good pictures. You can see it better in the pictures. So they were definitely all there, but that was day one, yeah.
Yeah, and so have you been out since as well to try and told some of the locals in Tāmaki to turn their lights off and gone back up the hill?
I try, like I present shows once a week. Every Friday night I do shows on, it has been on Matariki, Ngā Whetū o Matariki, a show that me and my colleague Josh co-created. Oh, cool. Where I'll, spread the message. Oh, not really keep your lights off. I don't know, like we all need lights, so I'm forgiving.
It's a tricky one though.
Yeah. We all just need to leave the city.
Yeah, exactly.
During Matariki.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has it been for you, this first Matariki? I'm sure you've been absolutely flat out. Have you seen a lot of hunger from people, heaps of people coming to the Stardome hungry to know more about mātauranga Matariki?
Yeah, definitely. And it's grown over the years as well. Like Josh and I, we started doing our Ngā Whetū Matariki show 2 years ago. So this is the third year that we've run it. And from then, like from the start, like that wasn't that long ago, but there was so much interest then. You know, there's been so much interest built up by the amazing mahi that Professor Rangi Matamu has done and other leading experts as well. So much mahi has gone into this. So we kind of picked it up from there, and we've had so much interest. We've had people like Pākehā as well, like people come in and just seeing that show and being so upset that they didn't know it sooner, you know?
It's interesting you say that, eh? There is very much a sense of simultaneously, I'm going to get a little bit deep here, but simultaneously like grieving what you don't know and celebrating at the same time. I don't know if any of you have felt a little bit of that poritanga. But also, you know, it's been a heavy last year or two.
Yeah.
What is it about Matariki that's really grabbed you? I know you've always had a love for the stars, but what was it about Matariki that opened your whole eyes and imagination and grabbed your nāko, really, eh?
Yeah, I think it's the work that Rangi Matamua has done to make this knowledge so accessible, and especially where it's come from. Like, it's come directly from his tupuna. So it's just so valuable because it hasn't been put through that colonised lens of Elston Best or, you know, like Pākehā ethnographers who are trying to tell us our own stories and inevitably getting it wrong. So having it come directly from the source and then having him be such an amazing communicator. So getting such a good understanding from him and knowing that I could really trust that knowledge and just building from there, like it just made so much sense. So I guess that's what's grabbed me is like it was a gateway for me to be able to understand more about te ao Māori or the... what am I trying to say? Basically, from there, I have come to understand the interconnectedness of te rangi, te whenua, te moana, and also hina marama, the moon, and just everything, the entire environment, and how it all works together, and how we can work within it, and how I can work within it. It's just been really eye-opening in that I've always felt like I was missing something, you know, like I'm not religious, and I'm open to whatever, you know, presents itself, but this was it for me. It was this makes sense.
Yeah. That's cool. A sacredness that actually makes sense to you.
Yeah. And is, yeah.
I'm really curious to know what astronomy as a field of study and of work is like for Māori. Because there was a time pre-Rangi Matamua.
Yeah.
We'll call it BR, before Rangi.
Before Rangi.
Yeah, what is it like coming up in that field as a Māori person?
I think it all depends. It depends so heavily. My experience is that it's depended so heavily on the people who are above me and the opportunities that they decide to give me. So I'm here because the people above me decided to give me the opportunity because they happen to be people who believe in kaupapa Māori, who believe in what I can give to the kaupapa, who, you know what I mean?
Aye.
So it's because there was someone who was into helping Māori or understands the context of how Māori haven't previously fit in these spaces because of systemic oppression or, you know, history. So...
Because science in universities isn't for you.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
Yeah, totally.
You're young, so obviously you're a beneficiary of a generation for whom it probably wasn't as easy to be a scientist and on a mātauranga Māori, ne?
Yeah, and I think I have a debt to pay to Te Kuru's father, I believe, for that that kaupapa as well. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Olive. Yeah, Dad was involved. But what's your background, Olive? That's what I wanted to ask. How does one find themselves in astronomy?
Well, it started, I've always just been interested in the night sky. I just think it's really beautiful. It's this big expanse above our heads that is just there, and it's like the most incredible painting that you could ever witness, and it's like doesn't end. But I was also like, like a little Māori girl in West Auckland who didn't really think that, I don't know, like I didn't really have much direction, and so I spent a long time trying to find it, I suppose. And went overseas, did that thing because I thought that's what you should do. I thought that my future was like elsewhere because I wasn't really connected to anything here. And I realised overseas that all I wanted to do was be here and how incredible our home is. And like, yeah, so here I am. Then I just decided to start volunteering at Stardome because I wanted to learn more about space. I just wanted to know what I was looking at, like when I look at the stars. And so volunteering there after about 6 months turned into a job as a telescope operator.
Cool.
Yeah, which then turned into a job as a planetarium presenter. And so I just like learned on the job throughout the years. And all the while this was not really like a kaupapa Māori friendly space at that time. So I kind of, just kept my head down and learnt a very, I suppose, Western way, and didn't even like know much about Matariki, and especially how it was treated there at the time. It wasn't really seen as something that is significant, But in 2019, we got a new CEO, Victoria Travers, and she's basically flipped everything on its head. And she said, "Hey, you, come and do heaps more mahi and stuff that really fulfills you, and find your calling."
And we'll pay you more?
Yeah.
No, you better not answer that in case your boss is listening. Oh, yes. Come on. What a career path, eh? I mean, these are the kōrero that I wish, My careers advisor didn't say anything that I could go and become an astronomer. I'm like, where was that?
Well, that's why I'm here, Like, I'm trying to show my face and be like, yeah, I'm wahine Māori, and I work in astronomy, and we can do this, and we belong here. Like, I don't know, like doing this kind of stuff is like not like the norm for me, like putting myself out there, like the piece that I wrote or was helped to write, or, being on this podcast, which like I'm a fan of, so it's amazing to be here on it. But I have to because there's no one else. So I'm just doing it. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And how, in terms of gaining or gathering that knowledge of the stars, because I think it's taken me about 3 years just to be able to identify tautoru relatively consistently. I'm like, okay, there it is.
Nice.
There it is. But yeah, which is like and the Southern Cross, which sadly, the ingoa Māori for the Southern Cross, I always forget.
Mahutonga.
Mahutonga.
Oh, ka pai. So those are the two that I can find. How long did it take you staring up at the sky, nights working at the Stardome, until you felt like, you understood out of 5 to 10 different star clusters?
Not that long, to be honest. That was the good thing about being there, is that everyone there is passionate about space and they all love sharing. And so as long as you're asking questions, it was really easy to find the knowledge. But in terms of like feeling like I know everything about space, I don't think I'll ever feel that way. I think I have. I've like gone through like steps of being like, yeah, man, I know so much. And then I'll learn something else and I'll be like, man, I know nothing, like it's just always going to be like that, I think.
What I would find really helpful is a better understanding, because I live in Tāmaki. I'm probably going to live in Tāmaki until retirement age. And a lot of the kōrero and the mātauranga about our whetū and our maramataka, I have either got from up north or from the east coast. So I would love to know a little bit more about our tohu whetū here in Tāmaki. I mean, at the end of the day, it is the largest Māori population here in this large city. So, like, for instance, like, who should I be looking out for the start of my, like, kumara harvest?
So that's a good question.
Is this another assignment?
No, Carl. But, I mean, so, like, as far as I'm aware, he tohu ko whānui, right? But I only know that to be true for the East Coast. So I would like to know if that's true. In Tāmaki, where I live, it's really hard to find that regional mātauranga.
Yeah.
But we, you know, we're told, you know, it's different for every rohe. And like kei te pai, I know that. But I would love to know.
Right here, right now.
The mātauranga or tēnei whenua, you know.
Most of the knowledge that I've learnt comes from either Rangi Matamua or from Ricky Solomon. So Rangi's from Tūhoi, and then Ricky Solomon, he's from Ngāti Kahungunu, but he has done a lot of mahi with Rereata Mākiha in up north in Hokianga, but also in Tāmaki Makaurau. So they've created a maramataka for Tāmaki Makaurau region, which is what I use when I'm not cheating with my Hina app. As for so the tohu for kumara harvest, like from what I've learned from Rangi is that there is a star associated with that time. So kumara harvest would be like autumn.
Aye.
So the only tohu that I know about, the whetū for autumn, off the top of my head, I cannot remember. Aroha mai. I definitely have it written down. But the tohu I've been told about kumara harvest is the riroriro, the grey warbler.
He manu, aye.
Yeah. So the tangi of the riroriro changes from spring to summer to autumn. And so you listen for the 4 different tangi of the riroriro, and each one signifies a new action that you should be taking around your kumara gardening, planting and harvesting.
All right, gotta go find me a riroriro.
Wow. It's beautiful you bring that up because Hat was really lucky to be at the Kupu Writers Festival the other weekend, just prior to the start of Matariki, and Rangi Matamua gave a kōrero there at Te Tākinga Marae. Kuia no, he talked about how, you know, there's this common misconception that the stars and the moon tell you the time, but actually it's those environmental indicators like the different sounds of the manu, like when particular flowers are in bloom. It's the interaction between the whetū, the maramataka, and the environment that we live in. What was your process of coming to understand how all those factors interact to tell us the time?
I think, again, there's been like layers of my understanding. So I learnt about the maramataka pretty early on, and that alone blew my mind. Using Hina Marama to plan out your time and also to understand what is best for you within that time, or like the energy level, for example, of like different moon phases means that like makes planning events easier, you know, like if I'm doing a show on Whiro, like I'm expecting a dead crowd who are, you know, not going to want to ask questions and not going to want to interact with me, or huna. So that was like the first layer of like, wow, that I kind of got. But then after that, like the more I understood about like the connection of the environment with everything, I think, I don't know if you guys have heard the whakatauki that Ricky Solomon often shares. Tuia ki te rangi, tuia ki te whenua, tuia ki te moana, e rongo te pō, e rongo te ao. So look to the sky, the land and the sea to understand the divisions between night and day. And I feel like that encapsulates it really well. Like that was another like mind blow moment for me where, I mean, that's what you're doing, I suppose, is like you're looking to the sky for the tohu in the sky. And so you said whānui, so the whetū whānui might be out, and then the tohu in the ocean might be that there is like some kind of fish. The ocean is probably where I fall short, but I'm getting there.
It's pretty big.
I know. And
it's not as big as the sky, but it's pretty big.
And it's hard to see. Like, you can't really see in it.
Yeah.
But at least you're on the moana, right? You know, we're not out there on our waka like we used to be, so it's harder to understand the ocean's rhythms and behaviour.
That's a like future goal for me, though, is I want to be on the moana and I want to be navigating.
Oh, ka pai.
Yeah.
It's so weird, though, that you chose this field of astronomy, and because it's opened up mātauranga Māori for you, now you have to learn about every thing that connects with it because that's te ao Māori.
But that's so...
No easy kaupapa.
That's just so fulfilling.
Yeah, ka pai.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting kōrero you bring up, Leonie, around, you know, when you first came into learning about Matariki and the stars, were you... Because I can imagine there was a bit of an expectation that being Māori and being an astronomer that you were an expert, probably more so from non-Māori. How did you navigate that? And, you know, was there that expectation, I need to be like rangi mātāmua tomorrow, āpopo?
I think I go through phases of like struggling with that, especially like the more involved in it that I get. Like early on when I didn't really expect it all to be anything, you know, like I'm me and I'm Māori, and I didn't grow up on the marae or exposed to like as much of te ao Māori as I would have liked to have been, but that doesn't make my journey any less valid. So I'm here and I'm Māori and that's fine, but like don't expect me to be rangi mātāmua. But the more I get into it, I'm like, okay, like I'll never be rangi mātāmua, but I am me and I know enough. I mean, I'll never know enough. I'm always going to be learning forever.
Right, but you know a lot.
But but I know enough to feel comfortable to be like, okay, here's what I have.
All right, ka pai.
Yeah.
What's your favourite kahui of whetū and why?
Okay. This is pretty easy, and also one of only a few constellations Māori, kahui Māori, itirangi that I know about so far, which is one that we all know of, and that's probably why, and that's the reason why we all know it is because it is actually really special. Te Mātou-ā-Maui, Maui's fish hook. Yeah, it's my favourite because, it's one of the important constellations that Māori use to find Aotearoa, because where it sets over in the southwestern horizon is the direction that they needed to travel their waka towards, or guide their waka towards to find Aotearoa. And so as they approached the island, the hook appeared to fish the island out of the ocean.
That's so cool.
Which is how you get the name Te Ika Maui, the fish of Maui. So I love that, especially like how it ties in with navigation. And then there's also a story that I learned recently from Ricky Solomon, which just blew my mind as well, which is the story of Maui and the sun. So slowing down the sun with his hook by hooking into the sun and dragging it through the sky so it's slower, so we get more sunshine, is because in the summertime, the sun moves over that constellation, and in the summertime we get really long days because the sun's out for longer, and so it does that when it's by the hook, and so the hook appears to slow it down.
Clever, ne?
Cool, eh?
Reka rawa atu ki oku tāringa. What a cool kōrero.
I didn't know that second one. I love it when that next level of a pūrākau or even a paki waitara, you're just like, I get it now. I get what you were saying.
Yeah. It's really
cool.
Yeah, so rewarding.
I think that's the beauty of it, of Pūrākau, Pakiwaitara for Māori, is that these stories are thousands of years old.
Aye.
And we can be misguided to think that they're just children's stories.
Aye.
Or I think that's just a result of our oppression. But now that we have people like Rangi who are really unearthing, Ricky Solomon, who are unearthing these stories for us, we're like, wow, there's actually a lot of like real scientific meaning behind all of this. Kōrero tuku iho. And then it's an incentive for us to look at other parts of our taiao, like our manu and our rākau and our moana. And our winds, of which there, Papaririata says there are over 800 names for Māori winds. So it is holistic, like Olive said. We have to have that holistic view of our taiao at all times. And this Matariki, for me, that's the power of what Rangi and his team have done, is just made people believe. It's made our people believe, and there's nothing more powerful than that.
Pono.
Tika.
Aira. I think that's a beautiful point to wrap up our kōrero. Ngā mihi nunui ki a koe, Olive, mō tō mātauranga, o ngā whetū, o Matariki, and really hoping that as a result of your mahi that we get more of our rangatahi into astronomy and more friends for yourself, for Josh, for Rangi. But massive mihi to you. Kia ora, kia ora rā.
Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Thank you all for having me today, and come and visit me at the Stardome on a Friday night if you want to. And mānoa te a Matariki.
Ka pai.
Mauri ora.
Ka pai. Coming up next, I will be joined back with my co-host. We're going to have a brief debrief about how we spent Matariki and some of our favourite moments from the celebrations across the motu. Stay tuned, e hoa mā.
Talo for Lover. I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-Off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-Off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Hoki maia no tātou. We are back, your co-hosts and myself, Leonie, Hayden, and Te Kuru o te Marama Jews to debrief on our Matariki. But first of all, pēhā na kōrua.
Oh, kei te pai ahau, kei te pai nai nei. Unfortunately, I missed quite a lot of the Matariki celebrations due to the flu.
Oh, no.
But pai ake.
Ka aroha.
I'm feeling heaps better.
It's been going around.
Aye.
That was me a couple of weeks ago, but fortunately came right just before going down to Te Whanganui-a-Tara, and ever grateful to have been able to be part of that hautapu ceremony which took place at Te Papa. I was just a +1 bag carrier for my artist partner, Nico Hinden, who was doing mahi at Te Papa over the weekend. But just being there, really feeling the wairua, I was thinking about it earlier today. It really is something about, like Olive said, when you wake up and you go to a place to observe something like this, and you feel everyone's ihi and wairua and whakaro, and everyone's going with intention, and mamai is being shared, and aspirations are being sent up to Hiwai Te Rangi, and that was, all of this emotion. I'm still trying to unpack it. The ceremony that took place down in Te Whanganui-a-Tara was really, for me, I feel like for the motu was quite transformational, and it's really set the bar high for us and for other countries that have invaded Indigenous lands. Like, this is the first Indigenous holiday that recognises cultural ritual in the world. So, all of that was just powerful. I'm very moved.
Anna, I mean, moki, wish I was there for the hautapu, but, I had a similar experience with my own first hautapu, as I talked about earlier in the potty. The wairua was, it's so hard to describe. So hard to describe in English, but even in Dil, I mean, it's just a feeling, right? And before the hautapu, I didn't realise I was actually carrying probably a lot of grief. And then the next day in the morning, burnt my throat out doing a haka at 5:30 in the morning. but there was so much power behind our whole ope. You're communicating with the whetū and the atua, not really so much. I wasn't thinking a lot about the words of the karakia or the song. I was thinking about how I felt and the strength of those around me, and we were communicating our wairua. I'm not sure if that's teka, but that's how it feels.
Yeah.
And that's it was pretty mind-blowing, and I'm a bit the same as you, Tukuru, like still unpacking it and kind of returning back to ordinary life feels a bit odd.
It's so much cooler than a holiday where you buy shit. Like something that is just pure meaning and ritual. That's it. That's the whole point. You never get there. And I get super cynical about any kind of adoption of, I don't know, an ingoa Māori or a kaupapa Māori or whatever by a not kaupapa Māori organisation. Like, I could not have been more cynical about this becoming a public holiday. And I'm so delighted to have been proven completely wrong by this country that I'm so disappointed in so often. And, there was a handful of digs, and that's fine. But I feel like, for the most part, people really embraced this as a holiday of meaning. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it really demonstrates the sacrifice that Māori continually make. And especially in this case, like Dr. Rangi-Mātāmua, who has expressed, one of his goals now that it's done, now that it's complete, is to go and reconnect with his own whānau. So that man and his team have given so much to this kaupapa over the years. And now it's finally, right up to the point where they were standing and freezing their asses off outside Te Papa, running the hautapu for the country. Because all of these tohunga, these kaikarakia, had to leave their own whānau and communities. And for some of them, like Praone Gloin, who told me it was the first hautapu ceremony where he wouldn't be running it in his own, in his own backyard. So he gave that responsibility to his nephews, I think. And that's just a demonstration of what Māori do, what we need to do to reclaim our culture here and decolonise Aotearoa, but also the sacrifice that we have to make, because this is something that's good for all of Aotearoa. And, no Māori, they do get to come along and enjoy the fruits of these, of this labour. And it's just a reminder, that level of commitment is needed. But I do hope that people like Rangi-Mātāmua and others really do get a breakdown.
Ai, tika.
Ai. And there are resources. I mean, I'm probably jumping the gun, but thinking ahead to next year, because that's I hadn't actually considered, looking at all of those rua nuku standing up there at Te Papa. It's like, each of those is from their own hapu and iwi, and they've been pulled out. But maybe something for people to think about, as we sort of processing this beautiful, beautiful period of time, this holiday is, are there ways that we can do things more simply? There's resources available with little karakia. Rangi talks about, it actually can be as simple as if you just have a couple of kumara. I mean, even if you don't have kumara, a couple of riwai, potatoes in a pot. It doesn't have to be this big flash thing. And that maybe is something for people to think about coming into next year.
Yeah.
And because, like you say, Tukuru, the bar's been set high. Like for me now, when I think Matariki, I think hautapu. And that's really what this time needs to be about. And so any way that people can take the pressure off those who are doing that mahi to lead these hautapu ceremonies.
And just to expand on that, one cool thing someone told me over the weekend was that in their hapu, in their territory, they've allocated responsibilities to different whānau. So one whānau is responsible for providing the kai for te puanuku, and another whānau is responsible for going to get the eels, and another whānau to get the fish. And I was like, wow, that is really, for me, that's aspirational, because then you have this intergenerational legacy, this haipapa, this responsibility, where these kids are going to grow into this responsibility, grow up thinking, my whānau, we have this special role. Our job is to, protect the manu and then preserve or prepare one for the hautapu, or to, learn about eeling and continue that practice within. And I just feel like this is the start of something much bigger, and we're only just sort of scratching the surface.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how cool that whānau already thinking like that. I mean, I'm not sure about this particular example. Maybe this is something they've had in the works for a while now, but how cool, you know, people already thinking ahead. How can we spread the load? What other sort of, there was obviously a lot of events and things around. What else did both of you guys do over the weekend or maybe during the week?
I did nothing.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Leonie.
No, actually, no, in the end, that is not entirely true because I was feeling myself again a little bit yesterday morning. I messaged some of my best ones and I was like, I'm free of this. I want to have a meal with you and I want to have a little Matariki meal with you. And so I sort of whipped up as best as I could, especially because it had to be pescatarian, dishes for each of our whetū herikai. So we had tofu instead of heihe, but otherwise it was pretty tika. And it was just beautiful to cook for my friends and have karakia, and then we did a sort of like sent our wāwata to Huetirangi just in the form of like a toast. Each of us had to make a little toast to say what our wish was, and it was literally all I could muster considering my energy levels, but it was something, and it was enough to actually make me feel like fuel. You know, I actually got to whakanui our Matariki, and it made me feel really great when I woke up this morning.
Oh, rawe.
I think that's the power of this, is to make us, feel Māori.
Aye.
The power of ritual for us. The power of responsibility to engage with our culture.
It helped that my neighbour brought over a coda as well. That really, really helped celebrate the new year, I'm not going to lie.
MVP.
Hi.
Who's catching coda in Tāmaki Makoto? Cool neighbours.
Oh, I know. She'd been on a wānanga down the coast and they were just getting them every day, so she got to bring a couple home.
Whereabouts on the coast?
Oh, she was on Tukumaru.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, kapai. What about you, Tukuru? Any other beautiful events? Were you just bag boy all weekend?
I did get to go see Teeks.
Oh, man.
And that was my first time seeing him perform live since his initial EP launch, 2017, I think it was. So have seen him develop over the years. I actually did a story on him when he was in the Pau Academy under Tama Waipara and Meizirika. And when he came out, because he's a teina of mine, our whānau friends, they were at Ruamata for a while. We were all at Kura together. So he's a few years younger, but seeing him when he grew up, and I'm good friends with his sister, I was like, wow, te kare ana, he's got something special, And then, of course, he blew up. Now he's big time. He was at St. James Theatre with New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, and the sound was amazing. He was great. He sang in Te Reo Māori. He brought out Holly Smith. They sang Whakaria Mai, and he was just drilling it home, like he was drilling the message home, the kaupapa. He talked about what's happening in America and how, bullshit that is, what the Supreme Court has decided about women's rights to abortion and things like that. So it was just great to see, a young Māori man standing there in his Māoritanga, e waiatana I te reo Māori, e tuku ana I ngā whakaro Māori, and he spoke about Matariki, and it was just a great way to wrap up the weekend.
Cool. Beautiful. Oh, honestly, all the reo Māori music that's coming out, or just Māori music, is so cool. It's really, really cool.
I need to mihi to that album by Te Kahuriri Moa that you mentioned in your introduction. That album is fire. Was also the perfect timing. Obviously, it's no accident that she released the album at this time, but I recommend going to find it and getting deep in your feelings about this time, about being Māori, about being wahine Māori. It's so great.
Acts of service, e te whānau.
Right. Out now. And check out our conversation with her in an earlier episode of Ne, because it was really fire. She's also one of the funniest people in the land, as well as being an awesome musician.
Yeah, harder. Love that we're also plugging ourselves.
Aye.
Oh, ka pai. Well, ngā mihi korua e ngā mihi kia koutou, all of you listening out there across the motu. Big mihi to Te Aihe Butler, our podcast manager, and Jacob Edmonds, our podcast engineer. Without them, we wouldn't sound this flash. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, whether that be Spotify, Apple, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with another juicy kaupapa for you to sink your teeth into. Ka kite anō.
Ka kite.
NAIR is public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air and brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network. It was hosted and researched by Leonie Hayden, with Te Kuru Jews and Meriana Johnsen. NAIR was produced by Te Aihe Butler, with senior production from Jane Yee and project management from Mark Kelleher.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, senior writer at The Spin-Off. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spin-Off. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spin-Off member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spin-Off Podcast Network.